Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So for the next deck profile for the season, we're going to one of the other best Synchro decks of the meta. We started with Super Heavy Samurai. Now we're coming over to Mannadium. So Mannadium for me is going to be, I think, my next deck that I really sit down and try to practice a lot with. I made that decision with MathMech a little while ago to like really make it my main deck and sit down and practice with it. And just really devote a lot of time to it. And I think, like I said, I'm about to do the same here with Mannadium, because the deck is, of course, already very good. I think tier 1 status, personally, and will only get better with time. So I like to do this. I like to pick a meta deck sometimes and really make sure that it's not only currently good, but will remain good and actually get future support, which, of course, the Mannadium deck will still get the Visas Amritara coming up in the future at some point as well. So deck is good now. It'll get better, so I think it's worth really sitting down and taking the time to practice and learn. So as far as this build goes, I've been really liking this build in particular for ranked ladder. We've got a few format relevant tools to help us out, namely the Droll and Lockbirds, mostly against the mirror match as well as Super Heavy Samurai, and a Droll also having some applications against a lot of just decks in the meta as a whole. Droll and Lockbird, Droll and Lockbird, like I did just touch on, say that 5 times fast, is also very, very good against this deck. And sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to know what to do when faced with a Droll and Lockbird. If I recall correctly, we will have some gameplay coming up here in a bit that shows what you can do to play around the Droll and Lockbird. But a lot of times, if you've got a 2-card line, could be like Riumheart plus Calarium, or Rim plus Meek, or Meek plus Calarium, whatever, you can end up pivoting into, if nothing else, a Baronne de Fleur, sometimes even with the Spright Elf protection underneath the Droll. So very, very nice stuff there. I'm playing 3 Reichheart. I've been playing 3 Reichheart, but some people have pointed out or asked, like, hey, do you really need a playset of this? No, you don't need a playset of it, especially because unlike cards like Rim and Calarium, which are 1-card combos, Reichheart is not. I mean, you do have plays with Reichheart by itself and nothing else, but not a full combo. You'll not have quite as impressive of a board. Despite that, it's still a pretty good card to have in your hand. Even if you open like Reichheart plus Riumheart, for example, Reichheart can still be special summoned later during the turn by putting it in the zone underneath the Light-Heart. So even opening both of these isn't necessarily a brick. You can potentially use the Reichphobia to not have to search this and grab a Visas instead. It does open up your plays to open this card. I even will occasionally search for it with Rhoda. It's very hand or situation dependent, but a lot of times for follow-up plays, it's actually better to Rhoda for Reichheart than Riumheart to potentially grab an Arrival, to get a Vice out of the art. Again, it can be very, situational, but there are a lot of situations where you do really want to see the Reichheart, particularly in the follow-up lines. I've been loving Troll Tactics talent in general, but especially in this deck. Forbidden Droplet is a card that I've not played in quite some time, but I have included in this deck. The thing about Forbidden Droplet is that a lot of the time, in order to really make use of it, you've got to be a deck that has the resources in hand or on the field to spare in order to be able to negate a bunch of cards. And between our field spells, I don't really do a whole lot of the time after we've searched with them, to the random Meek that you can bring back with like a Spright Elf, or the random stuff that you've searched, you'll have a lot of potential fodder to send with the Forbidden Droplet. So Forbidden Droplet is, I think, also one of the best board breaker cards for ranked ladder meta in particular. Touched on this in our best of 1 versus best of 3 video, but if you're going to pick a board breaker for ranked ladder, you should pick one that has some utility going first and Forbidden Droplet. Even if you open it going first, you can set it and still use it as disruption, right? As opposed to something like Dark Ruler No More, which if you open it and go first, you're going to be pretty sad because it's not going to be doing much of anything for you. So yeah, the Forbidden Droplet, I very much like this in this deck here. Oh, one other card you're going to have to play in this deck moving forward, I think, is Perlerieno, because the existence of Perlerieno in your deck is what makes Calarium a 1-card combo, right? Because normally for a 1-card lines, with Riumheart, we search the Calarium and then search the well, you don't search the Calarium off of Riumheart, you search the Calarium off of the Amritara, and then you use the Calarium to grab Visas. But if you open Calarium, you're going to have to start your play by searching it with Riumheart. So in that case, we make the Amritara, and then use that to grab Perlerieno, which can then search the Visas Starfrost there. So that's why it's important to play a Perlerieno, as well as the Visas. You can play 2 Visas and 1 Perlerieno, like I am here, even though I own 3. But if you want to play 3 Visas, you still got to play that Perlerieno to make the Calarium a 1-card combo, which overall will greatly boost the consistency of your deck. So it is very, very much worth it here. My extra deck is pretty standard here. You don't need to play IP or even Elf, but I like playing IP and Elf. They offer a lot of flexibility in the kind of boards you can make if you get disrupted, or if you're doing the 1-card combo line, instead of just always making the 3-material Appaloosa. The other thing is, too, is that it's pretty much always better to make Elf and IP rather than the 3-material Appaloosa, because then during your opponent's turn, you can bring back like a random Meek with the Elf, and then use IP to use IP, Elf, and the Meek. You'll make a 3-material Appaloosa anyway, and then it won't be able to be destroyed by card effects. Also, I really like having IP on the end board because a lot of opponents will either use some amount of disruption cards or even try to move to battle phase using that resource just to get rid of the IP. And forcing them to do that just to go into the 3-material Appaloosa anyway, I think it's really, really good. So, ideally, in a perfect world, I would like to have either Nightmare Unicorn or Underworld Goddess for another target to go into for IP, but I think for this deck, having the Appaloosa is enough. And instead of that extra Link monster here, I have the Stardust Dragon. I talked about this in my deck profile for Super Heavy Samurai. Almost every deck, in fact, I think every deck that I'm playing Accel Stardust in right now, I am also playing the regular Stardust Dragon. For Super Heavy Sam, it wasn't quite as important, but I do think that for Mannadium, it is definitely more important to have the Stardust Dragon to be able to play around the Nibiru by going into the Baronne de Fleur that is unaffected. Because unlike Super Heavy Sam, which has a Pendulum Summon following whenever they would make the Baronne, it can be harder for this deck to have plays following the Nibiru there. So for this deck, I think the Stardust Dragon is more important. It's not necessary by any means, but it is more important. If I didn't own a Stardust Dragon, I'd probably be playing like a Chaos Angel. I do think Chaos Angel is the better level 10 Synchro. Or, sorry, I think is the worst level 10 Synchro between it and Chengying. Chengying just comes up more often, the situations in which it's useful, but Chaos Angel is not a bad pick either. I do definitely think you need 2 of each Astraloud and Light-Heart. Those definitely help out for grind games, so yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for the list. Like I said, it's pretty standard for the most part. So I'm going to break it down card by card, and then we'll see some gameplay. We are on 2 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Maxx, 3 Mannadium Meek, 3 Ash Blossom and a Joyous Spring, 3 Scareclaw Reichheart, 3 Mannadium Riumheart, 2 Visas Starfrost, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 2 Scareclaw Arrival, 1 Mannadium Imaginings, 2 Mannadium Abscission, 2 Primitive Planet Reichphobia, 1 Primeval Planet Perlerieno, 3 Peaceful Planets Calarium, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 Forbidden Droplet, and then 1 Mannadium Reframing. And that'll be our main deck. For the extra deck, we are on 2 Vicious Astraloud, 1 Mannadium Trisukta, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Accel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Visas Amritara, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, 1 Bystial Dis Pater, 2 Scareclaw Light-Heart, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Spright Elf, and then 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. That'll do it for our list. Let's see these games now. Okay, so this is going to be our first opponent. It's going to be Mannadium Mirror. I don't usually start looking at the opponent's deck list, but I did kind of want to show this as there are some deck building choices here that I do think are examples of what you should, generally speaking, not be doing in Best of 1. That's playing one-offs like the one of Dark Ruler No More here and the one of Reichheart Divine Incarnate. especially when we're only already playing one droplet and one talent. As we covered in our own deck profile, I think that these cards are just so much better for Ranked Ladder, and also do the similar things you want cards like these to do, that is to help you going second. But unlike Currycard, Divine Carnate, and Dark Ruler No More, cards like Talent and Droplet do have more application just going first. So just wanted to show off, I think that was this person, right? This game we're going to run it, yeah, Fernando here. Not that I think their list is horrible by any means, but I don't necessarily really think that it is necessarily optimized for best of one in this regard. So anyway, we're going to be taking the second turn here. I wonder if they actually opened up the Dark Ruler Noir. It'd be kind of funny if they did, but yeah, I mean, they're just going to end up sending 2 cards and passing. It's very, very likely that they have some of those cards clogging up their hand right now. Or even if it's not the case, like, you know, they could be playing more consistency boosting cards to kind of help with that. So I'm going to start by normal summoning the Reichheart. I've got an Ash Blossom for the C, but they're going to use a Call By on it. I'm actually going to respond with the Riumheart, popping the Scareclaw Reichheart here. This will let me get a summon in before they resolve the Maxx, rather, allowing me to dodge the draw here. So now I can proc the Riumheart effect in order to add the Mannadium Imaginings. I'm going to use Calarium, in this case, to add the Visas Starfrost, and before I proceed any further, I'm going to activate Imaginings, reveal the Visas, and put back the Arrival, doing a little bit of hand scoping. I'm going to move to battle phase here, set the Reframing for a future turn, and then pass over to the opponent, because this is one of those situations where I don't feel the need to play under Maxx at all. My opponent already told me by setting 2 cards and then passing that their hand is not very good, or at least, if nothing else, that it doesn't have any plays. I have a Droll and Lockbird to stop any plays they might have, especially, well, I guess I don't know that they're on the mirror match, to be fair, at this point. But, you know, Droll and Lockbird, pretty good in this meta. I'm reasonably confident it'll be enough to stop my opponent. But, yeah, this is, sometimes I do talk about playing into the Maxx to try to OTK the opponent, but in situations where, again, I know they are in top deck mode, I'm not going to take the chance of them drawing a Nibiru or a Droll or something else to stop my plays, and I'll just let them try to top deck it out. Again, especially when I have disruption for potential outs. So Reichheart coming down here, adding the Arrival. Like I said, we've got the Droll, so I'm not really concerned about my opponent's turn in general here. They, funnily enough, opted not to battle and just passed right back over to me. So that top deck Riumheart is definitely not bad at all. Gonna roll some Reichheart, and our opponent's conceding here. So, again, we can't see our opponent's hand. So, in that regard, I could not tell you with any certainty whether or not they actually did have stuff like Currycard and Dark Ruler No More in their hand. But I do feel like this demonstrates how a more consistency-focused build is definitely preferable to a build that's playing, like, just random techs and kind of going over 40 cards for, like, no real reason at all. So, yeah, there is this first duel. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of others here. Alrighty, our next opponent here is going to be on Labyrinth. So, Labyrinth, this particular build is on a couple of Lava Golems, but they don't seem to be on any of the floodgates. It's mostly just like the normal trap cards, right? So, alright, we're going second yet again here. Opponent's going to lead with the next rev, and we don't have any disruption in this hand. So, whatever they've got, they've got. Thankfully for us, it's not like a combo deck, it is just Lab. And also, thankfully, I'm the most skillful player in the world and casually peeled the Ash Blossom off the top of my deck. Now, they do have multiple welcome Lab trap cards here, so it's not as if this Ash Blossom is going to solo stop their plays here. Indeed, we do still have to think about that last back row there as well, right? And the likelihood that it could be something like Dimensional Barrier, which will just completely stop us from making plays, right? Could also be EEV. Our opponent is actually playing both. Now, they're going to draw in response to the Reichheart adding here. Thankfully, we have the call by. So, but if they did not have the, or if I didn't have the call by here, looking at the rest of this hand, I do still have some amount of potential for plays, right? Because I opened Visas and Rim, and I also have the Scareclaw Arrival, that means here I could pretty easily make Baronne plus Astraloud. I will say, even though I did have the call by, this could have easily been a situation where I not only have plays, but maybe even win under the Droll. But anyway. Yeah, they get to Trap Trick as well as Lady Lab. The Trap Trick I was definitely not expecting. That will allow them to set the EEV, as well as a Dimensional Barrier. Well, the D Barrier is going to be what they can activate this turn, because they set the EEV with the Lady Lab. Alright, so I'm going to use Rim's effect, pop the Reichheart to special it, and activate to add us the Mannadium Meek. Especially the Meek, and then that'll force out the Dimensional Barrier. I was really wanting to just get that out of the way more than anything else. So I can pop Meek to special Visas, summoning all these in defense mode, so that way I can activate Reichphobia, and then use the effect to pop the remaining face-down cards. So not only do I not have to worry about EEV now, but also now the Lady Lab is vulnerable to targeting and destruction. Gonna link off into the Light-Heart to add a follow-up Reichphobia. I can then link Light-Heart and Riumheart in order to summon out the Cross Sheep. While I can't Synchro summon, I can still Fusion summon. So, gonna banish those two in the yard for the Astraloud. This will proc not only the Astraloud effect to get rid of that Lady Lab, like I set up to do earlier, but now I can use Cross Sheep in order to bring back the Reichheart. And, again, might not be able to Synchro, but if nothing else, I can still link off into the Appaloosa here. I don't think there was any way without Synchroing I could find lethal here, but we leave them at 1100, which is still definitely not too bad. If only Arrival didn't summon in defense mode, then we definitely would have had lethal, but oh well. They do have the Lava Golem, but then they just concede right afterward. Does not seem they had a way to actually stop that Lava Golem from then turning on them. And lethaling as well. So there is that duel there. Yeah, it's a pretty nice game against Lab. Shows how even when they do get to resolve some of their stuff, it's like definitely not the end of the world by any means. So got a couple more games that I'm going to show you. Let's go into the next duel here. All right, got to get in that game against Super Heavy Samurai, of course, with it being such a force on the ladder there. Let's see how this one ends up playing out. We're going second yet again. I didn't even plan for all going second games, but here we are. So, we got the bug, the Earth level 2 insect, but we didn't need it, because they apparently just did not have plays at all. Wow. Definitely will take that Ash Blossom for the follow-up, though, that is for sure. Gonna rotor for the Riumheart here. Opponent's going to respond with a Droll and Lockbird. So, I'm just going to set the Reframing and pass, because here in this situation, unfortunately, there's really just not anything I can do. Well, I could have made a Baronne here, but it would have cost me too many resources, I think, right? I would have had to have normal summoned either Sea or Ash. Probably Ash Blossom in this situation, just held on to the Sea. Normal summon Ash, special Visas, normal summon Rim, and then sync for Baronne. But to give up these resources, particularly the Rim search, I just thought it was a little bit too much, in my opinion. So I did have an option here to make a play, again, make the Baronne, but I opted not to, because giving up all three of these to make that Omni Negate, I don't think it's as valuable as just hanging on to these and hoping that's going to be enough. So I'm willing to hedge here and hope in that case. But it's going to normal summon the Wagon. I'll go ahead and chain the Maxx. They have an Ash Blossom, so that is going to just end up resolving. I was going to wait on the... Well, actually, funnily enough, I actually want to point this out here. I actually made a play just now that I criticized a previous opponent in the Super Heavy Samurai video for doing. When I started with Wagon in the Super Heavy Samurai deck profile, there's one of the games where I started with Wagon, and the opponent threw out Maxx, but then Ash Blossomed the Wagon. Now here, my Maxx got Ash Blossomed, but I'll be honest with you, I probably would have just Ash Blossomed the Wagon anyway, given that my opponent told me that they didn't have plays, because, like, last turn, if they had a Wagon, and they would have normal summoned it to start their plays, right? So, you know what? I gotta call myself out for that one. I actually made that same play I criticized somebody else for doing, so gotta watch that. Definitely gotta watch that. Always pays to be, that's why it's very good to watch your own replays. I mean, I do it for content creation, but even if you're not making videos, it's very good practice to save replays and watch over them to be able to catch stuff like that really more than anything else, right? And you also, at the same time, you gotta hold yourself accountable. Like, it's so easy to make excuses for yourself. Like, here, I could have so easily been like, well, they end up negating the Maxx of the Ash Blossom, so that's probably why I did it. But no, I'm thinking back to this duel, and I wasn't thinking about that. I was planning on using both, so I think just being honest, you know, more than anything else. Alright, opponent is going Bagooska and then into the Zeus, but funnily enough, I kind of feel like the Bagooska would have been harder for me to out than a Zeus with one board wipe. It's one of the reasons why I took Zeus out of the extra deck for Super VSAM, not only for space issues, but also because, yeah, I think a lot of the time Bagooska is a better kind of disruption than the Zeus board wipe. Opponent's going to try to Valor the Reichheart, but I'm going to use Riumheart here to dodge that. Which will not only allow me to obviously get the Riumheart search for normally yet, but now that Reichheart is no longer on the field, I get to add this Scareclaw Arrival. So I'll special Meek, and this will proc the Zeus, or it'll force out the Zeus like I suspected it would. But thankfully, I still have enough plays here. This Ghost Spell was really terrifying and almost enough to stop me from coming back, but thank God our last card was called by. That means I get to use the Arrival here to bring back the Scareclaw Reichheart. As opposed to my Arrival just getting flat out negated. Now I can link off the Reichheart into the Scareclaw Light-Heart. And I think I do have another Reichphobia in my deck. I do, yes. I've already activated one this turn, but always nice to do a bit of deck things / follow-up play setting up. I'll pop Light-Heart for Visas, bring the Light-Heart back. I get to now link these two off for the Cross Sheep. And yeah, I mean, from there I'm just going to go for the Astraloud. As my opponent saw I was about to do, and well, they didn't quite hit the surrender button, but they connect failed at a pretty serendipitous time, didn't they? But yeah, I mean, even in situations where it looked like, oh, what are you realistically going to do here with only like the Visas and the Light-Heart? Yeah, make the Cross Sheep and make the Astraloud and bring stuff back and then go into the Apo. It's like has so much follow-up. It's so good. All right, we got one more duel that I want to check out here. Let us finish off with that one. And our last duel for this video, our last game, is going to be against Branded Despia. So yeah, we got in all the, like, a lot of the meta-relevant, most meta-relevant matchups there. We got the Mirror match, we got the Super VSAM match, we got the Branded match, and they're all going second games! I didn't even plan this! I didn't even plan this for all going second games, but we definitely love to see it. So, Droll and Lockbird, you don't often get to use it to good effect against Branded, but I feel like this is a situation where we might have. Certainly, them starting with Albion is a pretty good thing for us when we have Droll in our hand, but yeah, because now they're going to make the Albion Sanctifier, setting one for the triple attack. Going to have to hand it up, although I do think that ends up being better anyway. And the Visas was definitely a good call here because, yeah, Visas plus Meek, obviously pretty good. The second call by, not the worst draw in the world here. I get to set a called by, and then as I go to end my turn and they're using the Albion Sanctifier, I'm going to activate the other one. That's why I only set one of them, because quick play spell cards, you can't activate them during the same turn that you set them. So only kept one in hand because I figured they were probably going to try to use the Albion Sanctifier. Want to banish Cartesia so that way they can't use the Cartesia effect for follow-up on this turn. Here, as you can see, they have to fusion deployment for the Albaz, and I had the call by here to potentially block the Saronir, right? Because it banished the Albaz out of their yard. But the problem is, I don't want this Saronir to mess me up on the follow-up turn, right? Or on my follow-up turn, because while this is scary and a lot of damage at 7,300, I will ultimately live through this turn. So I did consider using the face down call by to stop the Saronir from coming down, but ultimately end up letting it resolve. Also, the fact that they had a fusion deployment there makes me very, very, very glad I call by'd the Cartesia during their end phase, because they could have easily fusion deploymented for the Cartesia and then fused with the Saronir and potentially had more damage than they had on board. So drawing an Abscission, that is going to be enough. I'll normal summon Meek, activate Abscission, popping it to add the Calarium. Now I can activate the Meek effect to bring it back. Opponent's going to Albion Sanctifier targeting that Meek and putting it on their field. That's fine. I don't actually need that Meek that's in the graveyard to be there to make my plays here. And I'll still get to use this Droll they're putting on my field as a link material here shortly. Or I can also pop it for Visas, either way. But no, I definitely want to pop Meek while Calarium's on field. That way, Meek will not only, of course, proc, but also Calarium will proc as well. I'm going to make a level 4 Meek with the I'm going to summon a Meek and bump it up to level 4, by the way, because even though I don't have a level 4 non-tuner on the field, I will actually pretty shortly here, as I link Visas into Light-Heart. Light-Heart add Reichphobia, activate Reichphobia, that will add the Reichheart from my deck to my hand. I can special summon Reichheart, draw a card, as well as searching another Arrival. The second Arrival also very relevant to the combo line, because you can use the effect to bring it back from the graveyard more than once per turn. Reichphobia gets to pop that leftover back row. Now Accel Stardust, I'm going to activate that to bring back the Meek. I get to link off Light-Heart and Droll for the Cross Sheep. I'm going to do this first just to set up the Baronne in the Cross Sheep zone to get the attack boost, but you definitely do not want to activate... Oh, I'm doing Pater first. But you definitely don't want to activate Cross Sheep right away. You want to wait until you get the Astraloud in, because that's what brings a monster back out of the graveyard. So now I'm just going to use both Arrivals to just bring back Visas and Reichheart and just like make another 10 that way for the Baronne de Fleur. Now I get to banish the 2 of them for the Vicious Astraloud, putting that in the Cross Sheep zone. And again, I set up the Synchros in the zone first so that way I could get an attack buff, which I thought would be very relevant, given that I'm going to try to, of course, win the duel on this turn. Astraloud also gets to buff. Can't target Albion Sanctifier, so I'm going to pop the next strongest monster in Saronir. Linking off for the Spright Elf. Pater F will bring back that Visas. Now I get to sync for Amritara, putting more damage on the field and getting even more follow-up by adding the Reframing in case they somehow, don't lose this turn. But nah, they just concede at this point. They definitely know that their days are numbered. So there you have it. Again, wow, I did not plan to have all going second games, but we ended up having all going second games and showing that this deck is a force, even going second, especially going second. Unlike Super Heavy Samurai, which tries to play literally half of its deck as hand traps to compensate having to go second, this deck does not have to play that many hand traps to compensate, because, as we saw, it just has good plays going second. And for that reason, I think that there might even be a chance that Mannadium is the better ladder deck than Super Heavy Samurai. For that reason. But anyway, that's going to do it for these duels, this video. Thank you so very much for watching them. Let us now go ahead and move on to the outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page, where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs, as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.